Okay, so I'm here quite early and I really like to get to locations like this a little bit before sunset so that you have time to work out where the best place to be is and to get all of your gear set up. Kind of makes the whole thing a little bit more peaceful as well. Now the picture that I'm looking for tonight is not kind of this sunset that we're looking at right now. I'm looking for a much more kind of blue hour harbour lights picture. So I'm hoping as the sun goes down, these clouds over here kind of move in. And as the ambient light drops, I'm hoping that the street lighting and the restaurants in the harbour down below are going to start glowing up and then create a reflection across the harbour water, and we're going to get that really nice balance. So we'll see. I think this might be cool. Quite like this big sky and this curving shape that's coming around from the land. It's kind of a really good reason to arrive early, because that sunset shot wasn't actually what I was coming here for. That's kind of a byproduct really. And you know, the shot that I really want is going to probably happen in about 20 minutes or half an hour. So I'm just kind of stuck up here, but that was well worth having. So I'll show you down into the harbour, and the lights are just starting to come on. We'll have to see whether they come on enough to make a picture or not. Now, sometimes at this time of the night it's tempting to give up. Very tempting, because you've been here for a while, the light values don't appear to be dropping, and it all gets a bit drab and a bit kind of ordinary. Starting to happen. I love it when you can start to see the little different buildings in different parts of the harbour, in different layers, just starting to come alive, and it kind of builds these layers up into the picture. Getting really dark now, so I think it's probably time to head for home. Thank you for joining me. So I'm back in my studio, and I thought it might be good to do a little bit of a debrief and talk through some of the processes and techniques that I used on the shoot that you've just witnessed. Now, the first thing that I would say that is important is to plan, is to arrive early, is to know where you're going, look at a map, think about the direction of the light, and work it out in advance so you're not kind of scurrying around looking for a location to shoot from in the dark. It's probably not going to work. The second thing that's really important is to take a good tripod with you, because you're going to be using long exposures, long shutter speeds, and a good solid tripod is vital. It doesn't have to be the most expensive one in the world, it just needs to be sturdy. The next thing you're going to need is some neutral density filters, or at least that's how I do it. That means that I can lower the exposure right down during the early stages of the golden hour or the blue hour, and still get some blur in the water and some blur in the skies. I use Lee filters, but there's many other companies. Now, I typically shoot on a Canon camera with a wide angle lens, or whatever the lens is that I need, and my settings, I'll always use a sort of low ISO setting for a picture like that, because I've got the camera on the tripod. I'll typically shoot at an aperture of f8, 11, f16, f22, something like that, in order to get maximum depth of field, and again, to give me a nice long exposure. And then I'll use either the self-timer or a remote control to trigger the shutter, so I'm not moving the camera at all. The next thing that I guess is worth mentioning is that you're probably going to have to do some post-production to pictures like this. You know, I don't think I've ever shot a picture during the blue hour and not had to do some form of post-production to it. You know, if you're using a camera with HDR function, then that might nail it, but typically I shoot raw and then I'll come back and process my pictures in Lightroom. I've just processed these pictures really quickly just for the sake of this video, and I'm quite happy with them. I think that there might be a bit more work that I need to do just to kind of finalize the images, but you're going to have to be prepared to do some post-production to this kind of image. And the final thing that I would say is that you have to plan to be in it for the long haul. You know, you can sometimes get to one of these locations an hour before sunset, let's say, and particularly in the summer, it might have been a long day. If I've been shooting all day travel photography since sunrise, then by the time it gets to sunset, you can be really exhausted. But you kind of have to get into the mindset of being there until the end. And there's this time just after the sun goes down, when I think I mentioned it in the video, when everything actually becomes a bit drab, and you kind of just need to be patient. And it can be cold, and you can be kind of feeling like you just want to leave, but you know, you have to plan for that. And so take a jacket and a hat with you, take a drink and something to eat. It doesn't need to be a 3-course meal, you know, but just take something like a banana or a chocolate bar or something just to keep it going. And most importantly, take a head torch, because as you walk down after it's got dark, you're probably going to be, most likely going to be walking back towards the harbour lights, and so it can play havoc with your night vision. And so I use a head torch called a Petzl Ticker, which is really nice and light, and it goes on your head and you don't even know you've got it on, but it's just helps light the way, and you can see your camera and all of the different settings. So I hope that that's been of some use to you. Please do, you know, leave me a comment about how your particular technique for shooting Blue Owl. I'm sure there's multiple other ways that people do it. And subscribe if you like this kind of content. Thank you very much. Goodbye.